Tales from the wild. Stories from the heart. A journey into the mind and soul of fired-up business professionals where they share their vision for the future. And hear from a different non-profit organization every month as they create awareness of their goals and their needs. Dive into a world of untamed passion as we join our host, Shireen for this month's episode of Friends from Wild Places.
Amazing. And I would love if I can even be a part of it in any shape, way, or form, Janet, just to support you, or even help funeral directors going into the profession with burnout, or even our seasoned directors. Just something. I just think there's just so much amazing work and initiatives that you are doing and continue to do. And I know Shireen wants to get to the nonprofit, but I have one question I want to ask you. Do you get signs from Ted? Like, does Ted, do you get any, feelings or anything that you can share? Is there something that you see or feel, or is that something not that you've had experienced?
Is that the reason you wrote your book, to add to what Tanya says? Is that the reason you wrote your book as well?
I did have that experience, and that's why I wrote my book, because I had a dream that I went to heaven and saw Ted, and it was a really powerful, the things that he told me were just incredible. One of the first questions I asked him is, it was a year almost to the day that he died that I had this dream, and first thing that I said when I saw him is, do you like living here? And he said, Mom, I love it so much, I don't want to go back.
Oh, wow. And what's the name of the book, Janet? What's the name of the book?
It's called Visiting Ted in Heaven.
Okay. And where can our listeners find it?
They can find me on LinkedIn, and then I can work on getting them a copy.
Okay. I like that. That is beautiful. So touching. I have to get the book as well.
Well, I like to do it that way because then I can get to know who wants a copy, and I can put a name in it and sign it. It just feels more personal than just a book sale. So
I wish I could give you a hug, Janet. That's such a wow, that's such a beautiful story. Let's move on to the nonprofit, because that's also really important to the three of us. We love to support a nonprofit every month, and try and fulfill a need wherever we can. So this month we want to support a nonprofit called Brighter Days Grief Center in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, which is something that a nonprofit that Janet has brought to our attention. We will have the website for you guys to go and have a look and support. But Janet, please just tell us a little bit about the organization and how we can support it.
Yes, I would love to. This is an organization that I became aware of a couple of years ago, and I just fell in love with it. And when I found out kind of what their mission was, I was like, I want to be part of this. I don't know what that looks like, but I want to be part of this. I recently joined their board, and again, I don't know what the future looks like with them, but I'm here. What they do is they provide free resources for grieving Minnesotans. So my goal in joining them is to try to spread awareness within the funeral home communities that this is something we can be offering to all of the families. It is free. They provide grief counseling, they provide aftercare, they provide so many services. You have questions on probate or questions on other things, they will provide like a free info session to get you connected with who you need to get connected with. And their long-term vision is to actually build a grief center, a building where you can go to grieve in Minnesota. We can have yoga studios, we can have quiet places. And I love that concept, because in a world that becomes so increasingly full of technology and noise, I love the idea that we're trying to carve out a quiet place for people to grieve.
Yeah. Because grief looks different for everybody. So it's so nice that it's like, this is the safe space bring yourself and your grieving hearts and deal with your grief however you need to. But we've got everything here. So that's so nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Just so everyone knows, we're going to put it in the notes, but it's www.brighterdaysgriefcenter.org. That's brighterdaysgriefcenter.org. We will put that in the show notes. Please go and click on the link and go and see what beautiful things this organization is doing, which Janet is a part of and is part of the board. So I'd really like to see an impact done for the organization to get to their mission and to reach their goals, as well as for those people that need that space, that grieving space. All right. Okay, so we've come to the podcast where it's a little bit more lighthearted. Things we're going to discuss is more along the lines of our interests. And first off, something that Tanya and I absolutely love is true crime. We
I do
always
too.
Good. This is why I thought we always have this little segment of the podcast where we absolutely love to talk about all the current criminal cases that are ongoing or have just closed, and that have caught our attention. And this one is the Ballerina trial. I'm not sure if any of the listeners know about this trial, but I'm going to give the floor to Tanya to give us the deets, and then let's chat about it.
Yes. Yes. So my passion, Janet, so one of my background for formal education was in criminal forensics. So it's kind of like, it kind of ties in the mortuary with the, crime scene, kind of ties it together. So we are always encouraging our listeners to, make an impact, just as you have shared your journey, Janet, with us. So anything we can do to inspire others, inspire leadership, have people maybe go back to school, take on that degree that they've always thought they couldn't do because they're too old, or it's too expensive, or whatever the reason is. So one of the more recent trials was the Ballerina. So what was really near and dear to me is that's on the west coast of Florida, where I actually grew up in the funeral profession for just under 13 years. So the west coast of Florida, Manatee County, Bradenton, you'll hear them reference that in the trial. So if anyone is listening to this on the recording, obviously you can just YouTube Ballerina trial in Florida, and they can find all the, the day-to-day updates with it as far as how it transpired. So I wanted to open it up. So basically what happened was there was a young girl who met this man. He was 30 years her senior, and he had a child that he was married and the mom had passed. So he had like an adolescent child, and then this new woman came into his life, and within 13 days of meeting, they actually married. And the whole trial kind of goes through what happened, because she and he ended up by themselves, and she shot him. So they just closed very recently, and she was actually convicted of manslaughter. So I just wanted to just kind of open it up as far as if you're familiar with the trial or watching it, any thoughts about, maybe leading up to the actual, actual conviction, as far as any thoughts. Or so let's start with that, Jenna. Anything, are you familiar with it? If you saw it, anything you want to shed light on?
Well, I'll start by saying I just finished saying how people have big opinions on social media. Now I'm going to share my opinion. So take that for what it's worth. I'll just say we never know anybody's story.
Exactly.
But I will say, from the little I saw about it, it seemed like a situation where it was two people who didn't know each other very well for very long. And it sounds like there was potentially some domestic violence in there. And I think the question was she protecting herself? And, gosh, those are hard situations, because, is it okay to kill someone if they are violent toward you? I don't think it's ever okay to take somebody's life. However, when backed into a corner, we're humans and we're going to protect ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially when there's kids, like our kids are involved too.
Right. Right. I followed the, it's one of the few trials that I followed it like daily, like daily updates.
Okay.
And the chief medical examiner, which was Dr. Russell Vega, who was actually the medical examiner that oversaw our funeral home, because they oversee 3 counties. So it was very interesting to see his take as far as, the gunshot and what his take was. So interesting. And I think that was a valid point that you brought up, Janet, as far as, that component of domestic violence, really kind of piqued people's interest, because it's like, was it domestic violence? Was she protecting herself? So basically what the prosecution actually illustrated step by step was, from what they proved, to the degree of manslaughter, it was fabricated. And they had evidence to fabricate this domestic violence. So for example, the way even, how the relationship evolved, all the circumstantial evidence, and even what they felt he was led to believe, like, his family, that he was moving to Maryland, they were going to kind of reconnect their family and be together, when that was really never her intention. And it was just, like they kind of pointed. So, but again, when somebody puts a seed of doubt, right? That's like the seed of doubt. So it's like, is she telling the truth? Is she not telling the truth? So what's your take, Shireen? You, I know, are a big crime scene follower as far as all the trials. What's your take on the Ballerina?
I love it. I love the criminal side of most of these trials that we chat about. This one was tough for me, and that's why I let you lead on this one. It's got to do with domestic violence, and I don't really like to talk too much about that specific thing, about saying, did she fabricate or not? Because we don't know what's happening behind closed doors, and who says? I mean, she could have taken what was quite a toxic relationship and over exaggerated a lot of the scenarios to make her look better. I'm not, that could very well be true. But I won't take away from a woman when they actually say it was toxic, because whether it be the man or the woman or both of them, and them together create the toxic environment. People change in that toxic environment, and people cannot become themselves, and they become monsters, and they do things out of the ordinary that they don't normally do, which is exactly, I'm repeating myself, but it's they will do things to each other, and a build-up can, on top of one situation, on top of the next, on top of the next, can very much make a person a little dilly on both sides. And it could very easily turn into the perfect scenario where things can get out of control. And it could have been him lifting up the gun and shooting her, or could have, it was her this time. But toxic relationships behind closed doors, abusive as they are, it's very, very hard to say to someone that, you're lying and that's not true. Yeah. Do I make sense? That's why I'm not very good with talking about domestic violence, because it's a tough,
Well,
I don't want to really judge it too much. You know what I mean?
you don't want to take away from the people who are in real situations, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the risk of like,
For sure.
victim shaming or whatever. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
And Jenna, I also want to just tie it back to your, your story and journey as far as, people's comments, right? I mean, like whether it's, on this trial or any other trial, like people's comments, we kind of do our best to stay off of political realms on this podcast, but even it's just sit back and just like shame. I mean, it's amazing. It's almost to a degree of like you experienced, I mean, personally, people feel that they can say anything to anyone. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that as far as this, comments on, social media, or, anything that people just, like, how do you stop the noise, I guess is the, what's your take?
Well, I'll say two things. For the people who are saying it about other people, I would just ask, what is the benefit of doing it? Because there are real people on the other side who are reading it. And is it helpful? Is it going to, is there any way that you're going to change someone's opinion by being a keyboard warrior? I mean, usually changing people's opinions or it usually involves a conversation with people. And so I don't know that just simply, writing a comment here and there that's hurtful is really going to make much of an impact anyway. But the second thing I'll say is if you are someone who is on the receiving end of those comments, one thing that I always stuck with, and I would say this to anybody, is, I told myself, I know what happened that day. I know what kind of mom I am to Ted. And I know that God knows what happened that day. And God's opinion is the only one that matters to me. So I don't care what anybody else's opinion is. And that kind of put me in the right mindset that when someone would say something mean or hurtful, it made me kind of feel bad for them. Like, who hurt you to make you want to say something like that to me? I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing to remember is hurt people. And these bullies
Yes.
that sit behind their keyboards and troll people and say the most disgusting comments to any content maker, to any person that has been in a horrible situation like yourself, Janet, anybody behind a keyboard that wants to put a negative comment. It's honestly, unfortunately, it lies with them. They must have gone through something really horrible in their life to be that way. And we do feel very, very sorry for them. And we can't change them. There's nothing we can do to change any of those people behind those keyboards. They need to realize it themselves and go, oh my gosh, I'm actually a really angry person. Why is that? And then do some deep dive on yourself and figure it out.
Yeah.
Go figure it out. Why are you like the way you are? We all have to figure it out. We all have to change and work on the bad sides of us. You should work on yourself instead of trying to point fingers at everyone else and judge everyone else's life, because your judgment means nothing to any of us.
Yeah. And really, I would say the only thing that we actually can do is to not give it power, like to not react to it, because when we react, that's what they want.
Very powerful statement. Very powerful. So two things I just want to just kind of bring to the close from this section, and I'll let Shireen close out our podcast. So a couple of things, Janet, I just wanted to just another question or two for you. So you're teaching at the mortuary school currently. Was that like, did you find that wanting to go back into funeral service in some shape, way, or form after Ted's passing, or was that two separate, did that kind of steer you back, would you say?
I really didn't know what I was going to do career-wise after the Sturdy Act got passed. I had basically worked for free for like 7 years. And I didn't know where my career was going to take me or what I was going to do. And then this opportunity came up to teach one class at the university in the mortuary science program, actually in accounting. And I thought, maybe this would be a step in the right direction. And, it kind of ties in my roots with business and with mortuary science and Ted's story. And, something just said this was the right step to take. And it kind of turned into, oh, how about a marketing class? How about a business class? How about teaching this and clinicals and all? And now I work full-time there, and I love it. I feel like I am exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I'm passionate about it. And I love seeing, hearing why students want to go into funeral service and learning their individual passions, because I find each of them has something different that's driving them to be in it, and learning like what impact they want to make in this profession, and finding ways to build their skill sets for those passions. It's just, I'm having fun. It's exactly where I want to be.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, and I want to have you into my class, welcome you to come into the virtual Zoom room. So would welcome you to be a guest speaker for us at Miami-Dade College funeral program. So would
Of
welcome
course.
That's great.
And also another thing, just to, kind of conclude in a sense of, in the mortuary world, people used to ask me when I was actively working at the funeral home, like, is it sad? Like, is it sad to be in the funeral profession? Is it sad to see, dead bodies? It's sad to work with grieving families. And, something just kind of like came through me. It was almost like an inspired moment was, we are all here for a journey, right? And in Florida, we take care of, even a mom that's pregnant that, loses the fetus at 20 weeks gestation and beyond. So, I mean, we take care of, in vitro all the way up through, I think the oldest lady that I took care of, I think was like 106. And every type of situation in between, every culture, every race, every age, every type of death. And I really just had like this moment many, many years ago saying, you know what? Everyone is here for the time that they're supposed to be here. And sometimes there's deaths that you would think like, somebody falls, like, many stories and you read in the news that, they survived and somebody else falls off like a little step and dies. So it's like, so from me, it's from my perspective, I truly believe that, we are, God's children. We're here to do what we're supposed to do in the time we're supposed to do it. And then he takes us back, and so I don't know if that, resonates with you, Janet, as far as, because sometimes we try to make sense of things that they're not sense, like, there's like no rhyme or reason. Like, why did this happen? Why was Ted so young? Why did he, but again, if, you shared that, with the grace of God that, it's like maybe his time was to have you be on this mission. And then, that's, till you get reunited with him. So I don't know. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I believe that too. I believe, it's a really scary thing to think about impermanence, but that is reality. And
Right.
as a parent, the thing is that we're just not supposed to lose our children. We're all going to die someday, but we're not supposed to, we're supposed to die first.
Right.
We're not supposed to be around when they do. And so it's not a problem that they died. It's a problem that they died first.
Right.
And that we were here to see it.
Yeah, I had taken care of a mom that lost an 8-year-old little girl due to cancer many years ago, when I was at the funeral home. And, we sat and we had coffee, and it was, she came in for some, picking up the death certificates and things. And, one thing that she shared with me, and I had served, unfortunately, quite a few moms that had lost children. And one thing that she says, she goes, I always feared, like, I didn't know how my daughter was going to take care of me when I died. And she says, I was able to bring her in this world and provide her the gift of going out of the world. So in a very sensitive, like, I don't know, words that I never thought about before, like, like, what would our children do? I don't know. It just, in that moment, like, it was another perspective, I guess, another perspective that I had never, thought about. So I just appreciate you so much, Janet, just for, sharing your story. If we could have our listeners, hearing this, hearing your journey, Ted's journey, if people just want to go out in the world and do something in honor and memory of Ted, what can you ask that we do?
That's a great question. I would say, if you want to just do something good in the world, do a random act of kindness, please, in Ted's memory, for somebody else, and pay it forward. And if you have an inclination to make a monetary donation, I would encourage you to donate to Brighter Days Grief Center, the nonprofit we talked about, because they have done some phenomenal things. And I have no doubt in my mind that they have so many great things coming in the future that they are going to do for grieving families.
Nice.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh.
We'll keep Ted's memory alive. I welcome you into my classes at the college. It's been an absolute just, moment in our life that we can share your journey, Ted's journey, and, just spread awareness on so many different important levels. So thank you for being our guest today.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks for
Thank you,
having
Janet.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of the podcast. So we will have all the details of where you can reach out to Janet or to Tanya or to me in the show notes. If you want to go on to friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com, that's where you're going to find all our content. Go and listen, tell us what you think. And if you want that bonus content, click on subscribe. It's only $5 a month. That's friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com. And we will see you next time. And remember, you got this. And stay wild. Bye, guys.
You've been listening to Friends from Wild Places with Shireen Bueta. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast from the links to catch every episode and unleash your passion.